All right, so thank you for joining. So today I'm just going to be showing how you can use approval requests with Power Automate. And so I did some surveys and stuff with a lot of the Power Automate power users, people that are using it the most at UTM. And I noticed I did a lot of like show and tell sessions to see like kind of what flows they're using. And a lot of them were using some form of approvals within their flows. So I thought a good thing to do would be to kind of create a workshop on some of the different ways that you can use approvals in Power Automate. So I have a couple of common use cases. Um, One being just uploading files into SharePoint. So you can imagine you have expense requests or per diem or anything like that, where you would upload it to SharePoint and it would trigger an approval, and kind of see how that works. And the second is just using a form, like a Microsoft form, having it linked to SharePoint to input all the data, and then create an approval request that way. So I'll just run it through the browser, I guess, the PowerPoint. But so whether you need written acknowledgement from your manager or formal authorization from a diverse group of stakeholders, getting things approved is part of almost every organization. So an approval in Power Automate is a connector which provides actions that can be used to create and automate an approval process. Some popular cases where approvals can be used include vacation time off requests, documents that need approval or sign off, expense reports. When you submit an approval in a flow, approvers are notified and can review and act on the request. So submitting an approval request, these are kind of the steps of common ways to use it. So approvals can be submitted in a number of different ways. Some of the most common include uploading a document into SharePoint and submitting a form. So those are the two that kind of going to show today. You can imagine that if you were to submit a form or upload a document that requires approval, automating the process of notifying approvers, confirming completion, and updating files could save a lot of time and effort. So this is kind of how the approval looks when the approver receives it. The approver receives a Teams notification and an email notifying them that their approval has been requested. They can simply click a link to the item to review it. The approver can click a button to either approve or reject the request directly from the notification, as well as add any comments. So when you hit approve or reject, there's another little box that comes up that asks for any comments. The submitter will then receive a Teams notification that the request has been either approved or rejected with the notes from the approver. So for the second way, form that I will show today, which is through Microsoft Form. So if an approval is being submitted through a Microsoft Form, you can have each form's answers and attachments recorded in a SharePoint list. And here all of the form submitter's information and all of the answers to the form's questions will be displayed. This can also be used to record the approval information. So the approver's name, the approval status, so you can keep track. The date and the comments can all go into a SharePoint list for record keeping. And this is sort of an example of the workflow, kind of how it works in the flow. So the requester will submit an approval either from a form or from just uploading a document to SharePoint. This triggers the flow to run. If it's been submitted through a form, the form's data will be entered into a SharePoint list. The approval connector kicks in and it sends the approval request to the approver. Then it's either approved or rejected with the notes added, and then a notification gets sent to the requester to tell them if it's been approved or rejected with any of the notes. that's it for the PowerPoint. So let's get to the good stuff. So for the first one, I'll show is just uploading a document to SharePoint and triggering it that way. So this is something we actually have a template for this in our um, template library, UTM Flow template library. So it's called request approvals. And I can link these knowledge base articles too in the chat um, after, but we have like a high level of what it does. And basically it's just what I explained when you upload a document to SharePoint, it kicks in and with the approval process. And then there's also like a setup guide attached with this as well. So if you ever wanted to request this version of the approvals, um, it comes with all of this stuff. So I created a document library here on my SharePoint site and just treating it kind of like a expenses approvals document library. So I have some folders here where you can imagine people could just be uploading expenses. Um, So if I were to just upload any document in here, that's kind of all the requester would have to do. Um, the flow will start. It does like a check every minute or so. I should say running once it does, and I'll get a notification as well. Yeah. So this is sort of how the flow is structured. So the trigger is when a file is created. And so it checks my SharePoint site and the specific document library that I created. Um, and it will check to see if any file is created every minute or so. It might be already be running right now. So yeah, I see I got some notifications. Yeah. So I get this approval card here. Um, it'll tell me a new SharePoint file has been added, the file name. It's been requested by, and then it has my name and my email address. So this is dynamic. It'll be whoever submits it, the date, and then it has this link to the actual file itself so I can review it straight from here. But also it'll give me the path of where it was saved, who saved it, their email address, the time, all that is kind of built in here. So if I click the link to the file, it opened in my other window, but just opens in here. This is just a test file, but I can see I can review the file in here. Pretty easy. And then if I were to approve it, hit approve, enter any comments. Great job. Submit. And as an approver, that's it. My job is done. And now this, so since I also sent it, um, I'm getting the verification that my request has been approved. Um, but you can imagine if somebody else had sent this through and it wasn't the approver, this would come to them saying that your request has been approved. And then it has the comments here that I put. Anna, you had a question?
Yes, I see that you can add comments at the
Yeah.
point when you are approving or rejecting, but when you are submitting or uploading documents into the library um, for approval, is there a way to add notes at that point?
So you could do that with the other method, which is like filling out a form. So
Mm.
I'll show that one next, where you can kind of have a form where you can put anything. But for this, the this one is really it triggers off of just the flow, the file being created. Um,
Yes, I understand.
but like I don't know where you would put a note. Maybe if you had a note column here, maybe if you wanted to add a note column, so when someone uploads it, they could just like um, add a note manually. But in terms of like automating that part, like sending a separate note through the approvals itself, it doesn't. I don't think you could do that unless you're submitting it a different way. Um,
I understand.
there's
Okay.
probably like ways you could customize it to submit it differently, but just uploading a file, it just kind of that's how it starts the flow.
Yes, I was just thinking in terms of, practically, is it
Hmm.
more time or less time than what we are currently doing?
Hmm.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Michelle?
Does the document have to be any type of format? Like I see you have a Word. Could it be a PDF?
Yep.
Could it be an
Yep.
Excel? It can be anything.
Yeah, anything. Yeah. It's just the file is being sent for approval basically. And the approval comes just in the form of like confirmation in this approvals connector. So it doesn't actually change the file unless the approver wants to go in and change the file, they can do that, but um
So if it was a PDF, you could open it and like add your signature.
you so we have another flow for that. We have actual e-signature flow template that uses Adobe Sign e-signature process, and we actually have it in our we have a workshop that we did in here for that one. It was like one of the first ones. You can see the SharePoint e-signer. So that is possible. It's just a different process, and you need the Adobe license for that, which we provide in the
That's what I
flow.
was going to ask.
Yeah.
So you provide the Adobe
Yes.
Sign
Yeah.
license?
Yeah. So we have one that we use for our department that we literally purchased one just for that flow to make it available that everyone can use. So we don't use it for any personal use or anything. We just use it for the purpose of having Power Automate connect to Adobe Sign to use the signature portion. Also, if you had your own Adobe online license, you could sign in with that as well if you didn't want to use ours. So some departments do that are using it, but if it doesn't matter to you, because like technically we could go in and view the documents if we wanted to, because we would have access through our Adobe license. We wouldn't, but um, it's totally understandable if people didn't want to use our Adobe license for that. But for the purpose of this flow, it's just kind of just more of an informal approval. Like it's not signed, like you're not signing the file, you're just approving it basically. And you have a record of the approval here that stays. And it's better captured when I show you the other process because you can see the approval information in the SharePoint list for better record keeping.
Great.
Yeah.
Can
Um,
I can I also ask something?
mhm.
Is this method, the one that you're showing us now,
Yep.
acceptable by internal audit, for example?
Um, I couldn't answer that to be honest. Um, yeah, I don't know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Like you can download these approvals as for a record. Um, they come to, I believe in here in the activity. Yeah, so you can save as a PDF the actual approval for record keeping. There's like an add-in in Teams as well, so you can see all of the approvals that have been sent and their status. So it's like a built-in tracker. And all you do is in here in the apps, you would just add approvals. It's free and it's enabled. And then it comes down here on your teams. And then so from here you could just download each one of these for auditing, I suppose. Um, but whether if it's like officially accepted, I don't know.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, thank you.
No problem. Um, so yeah, so the way that this flow works, this is like the more simple one of the two. It just triggers off of any file that's saved into a location that you determine. It'll get the profile of the user that submits it, just to be able to send notifications and stuff and fill in their name. Um, this is the actual approval that it creates. It sends to a specific person, but if you want it to have multiple people, you could send it to uh, two people, or you could send it to a Teams group as well. But you would just have to probably change the type of approval that it creates. This one is first to respond, but you can have it be like sequential, I think, or everyone must approve before it actually gets approved. And first to respond, I guess, is the most common one if you're sending it to one person. These are kind of the fields that we pre-approved, or sorry, pre-added into our template, but this is all kind of customizable. It's just like the body of the approval message. So you could go in here and kind of pick any information that you'd want to be displayed to the approver. But we have like the folder path, who created it, their email, and the time, as well as the file name. And this is where you would have the link to the item. So these are all dynamic content items that are being pulled from the first step, which is when the file is created. So that's kind of how that part works. And then down here, this is like if there's an error with the approval. Say if maybe if they created an approval request and the file type was kind of, maybe it was weird, like it was an email file or something, like totally not supported. I haven't run into that yet, but it's possible. If it was something like that, it would send like an error message to the person that submitted it, just letting them know that it wasn't submitted properly, and they'd have to resubmit it or something. And this part here, so it creates the approval. Down here, it posts the approval card, and this is where you kind of choose how that comes. So for me, I have it as the flow bot, just in a chat window with the approver. But say if you wanted to post this into like a group chat with multiple people, so if you have a team that is approving or in a channel, you could change it in here basically, um, and just fill out any of these details. This is kind of standard stuff. Then it waits for the approval, and once it's received, if it has been approved, it goes down this path. If not, it goes down this path. So if it's been approved, it informs the requester of the approval in Teams. It'll get the file content. So in case the approver did make a change to the file, it'll pull the changes of the file and then send it in an email to the requester. So if I go to my email, I should see that my approval has been approved, or my expense report has been approved, and it has the file attached to it here. So that's the final step, basically. Michelle?
This may be a silly question. Is there a way to, if there's one approver, let's say there's one
Mhm.
supervisor of a team who is then now going to be absent for, let's say, a longer period of time, 2 to 3 weeks, whatever, and these need to go to somebody else. Is there a way to like trip that with an out of office, or would you need to kind of go back into this actual flow
Yeah,
and change who
you
the
would. Yeah.
approver is?
Yeah,
Okay.
you would have to change it here, the assign to as the approver. Or
But that wouldn't be difficult.
no, you're just
No.
literally
Okay.
just coming in here,
Okay.
editing the flow and putting in the email address and saving. That's it.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And then, so yeah, so if the outcome is not approved, if it's a rejection, it basically will just inform the submitter of a rejection. Same as this way. And you're not really attaching any files because they didn't approve anything, they rejected it. So that's this flow, this approval type. This is the one that we have the template for. This is one of the first kind of flow templates we created. But as we've been working with departments and stuff, we kind of made a more sophisticated one, I believe, that kind of tracks the data better. And um, I think it's a little bit cooler, if I could say. Um, so this one, basically, I create a SharePoint list in the same site, and I match my columns here with the answers of my form. So you could imagine if you had, this is a rental form for a drone, so we were designing this for a department, but if you had an expense form or any time off request or something like that, or anything, even if you wanted to submit files through a form, you can do that. You can create an attachment. You can have that as a question on here, and then the attachment would actually be saved to the SharePoint list. So you could have the questions and as well as a file to review as well. So I'll kind of just go through the process here. So if in this case I want to um, request a drone for rental, I can put INITS, reason for fun. And you could kind of imagine you'd put any fields in here that are related to any sort of request, but I'll just put anything. It's basically, it's going to capture all my answers from this flow or from the form and input them into the SharePoint list first. And I'll open this for a flow. So it's a separate flow. And this one works much faster. I think it already started. I'm getting like pings. Yeah. So I already received the request. I can show you kind of how this one works. So when a form is submitted, and I point to which form it is, which is this one that I created, it will get all of the response details that are submitted in the form, get the profile of the user that completed the form, and then it's going to create an item in my SharePoint list, so a new row with all the form responses. And it's going to fill in the columns for the SharePoint list with the answers in my form, basically. So the way you would do this is kind of, you go into each column here and then you just pick on the dynamic content box here. All of these are kind of form questions, get response details step. So these are all the ones that were filled in, and I just basically match them with the column name. So that's why I named them similar, so I can just match them. And as for the name, I can get it from this step here. So in case somebody spells their name wrong in the form or something, and you just want to get their name from Microsoft 365 database, you can just grab it from the orange step, the get user profile, and you can have it display their display name or their given name, last name, anything like that that you wanted, which is nice. And then, so the first step when it's creating it, I have, so this one is like a two-step approval. So the CAO office does the first approval, and then there's a second approval that goes to campus safety. And I'll show you down there the different approval steps. But once a form is submitted, I'm going to have the default status be pending because it's just pending the first person to approve. So the first thing it does is send an email to the person that submitted the form saying, "Hi, thank you for submitting your form, and we've viewed your request and are reviewing it shortly." So I can see that my drone request form has been received. Hello, Dennis. It filled in my first name from my profile. Thank you for submitting the drone request form. We have received your request and we'll be reviewing it shortly. And that's totally customizable. It's just an email text body that you can change. You could CC anybody on here, BCC. You could do a dynamic content for the CC. So if you wanted, I don't know, if there's another field in here that you wanted to CC from your form or something. But yeah, so it sends the confirmation email that it's been received, and then it starts the approval. So this is going to, again, it's assigned to whoever I set it to be assigned to. It's doing a first to respond. I have a title in here just to make sure, because they're both going to come to me because for test purposes, but I can decipher which one is which. So the CAO approval is the first one. And it has the body that I sent to it with a link to the item to review. And then, so once the CAO either approves or rejects it, so the approval will go on this path, the rejection will go on this path. Upon rejection, it's going to update the list with the status of rejected, basically. And it's going to tell me who rejected it, on what date, and any comments that the person that rejected it put in. So if I refresh, I should have a new row here that says pending. And that's the one that I just submitted. I have no data in here because nobody's approved it or rejected it yet. And then this is the second approver, the campus safety, also nothing there. But you can see all my responses to the form have been inputted here. So if I go to my card, so say I am the approver and I want to view the item again, I can go in here, quick link to it. So it opens up now the list item in SharePoint, which is basically, I can show you kind of, so with a SharePoint list, if you're not familiar, if you just like open it, like double click one of the rows, you can actually see it in like a kind of like a, it looks like a form or a card where you can see all the responses to the questions and then everything in here. And if you had any attachments, this is where you would be able to view them as well. Um, but yeah, so in the approval, you actually links you right to the SharePoint list, so they can review the questions that they've answered. If everything looks good, if there was any attachments, they could review it here. If all looks good, you can approve it. And this one already has the comments box open, so I can say yes, approved, and approve. So I can show you the next step. So now that outcome is approved. So I go down here and it will update that SharePoint list with the first status as approved. Put in my name, that who approved it, the date, as well as any comments. And then what it's going to do is set the next approval status to pending. So that's the one that goes to campus safety. So if I change this, this will be approved first. Puts in my name, I approved it, the date, here's my notes. And then the second step approval is here. And this is an optional step. You don't have to have a two-step approval, but just kind of showing that it's possible. So it'll send the second approval step. So this one goes to campus safety. Basically the same person as me, but you can imagine you have a different person in here. They get it. Same thing, basically the same approval card. I can show you that. So here it is. This one says campus safety, same link again. So technically, if the first approver left notes in the file or something, and I clicked in here, then I would be able to see those notes as campus safety, the second one. But let's say I just put campus safety approved. So I've already opened it. I looked at it. I like what I see, so I just approve it. And then now, again, the flow is going to go in. It's going to check for the outcome of the campus safety approval. Same thing as before. If they reject it, it just updates that status to rejected and puts in all the details in these fields and sends an email to the person that submitted the form that it's been rejected with the comments, like a reason why it's been rejected. But because I've approved it, it's going to go down this path. So it does the opposite. It just makes it approved and puts in my name, the date, and any comments. And since it's the last step of the process, it will enter any comments left by either of the approvers, CAO or campus safety, puts it in here, and it tells the person that it's been approved. So now if I go back to my list here, I can see that both are approved. And so this is like a great way to keep track of approvals and kind of like keep a record of when they were approved, by who, any comments. And there's like there's more fields that you could enter if you wanted as well. All you would have to do is just go in here, and then these are all like the data that you can pull from the approval, if you wanted to pull more. But I think these are the most common ones, just kind of like the name of the approver, the date, and any comments. Comments are probably the most sought after thing that you'd want to keep a record of. And then if I go to the final product, so this is also showing you that for each approval card, it also comes to an email to the approver. But since I've approved in Teams, it closes it out in the email as well. So it's kind of dynamic that way as well. But say this is me, the approver, or sorry, the requester, and I've received my final email that the request has been approved, and it shows both comments that were left. So if it was rejected and I wanted to know why, it would email me the comments in here as well, and then I could fix it and resubmit my approval form. It's a little confusing because I'm both the approver and the requester in this case, but it's kind of just showing you how it works. And then yeah, if you didn't want a two-step approval, you would basically just cut out the second part. Like you'd end it at the CAO part here that I have, kind of, and once this has been updated, then you'd send the confirmation email. You wouldn't do this second approval step. Yeah, so any questions about this one? Is this one better, you think, or Anna?
Hi, I worked with SharePoint list before, and
Mm-hmm.
the form similar to what you created for different purpose. What I'm wondering in this case is, uh, I'm thinking of possible use to collect timesheets, but I'm wondering if, uh, like, what if someone attaches the wrong document with their timesheet submission form? Um, I don't know that there is a way that they can go back and view and change that attachment without seeing everyone else's submissions. So,
Um,
like protecting privacy,
yeah,
and who has access to the SharePoint list. Like ideally, it would be
the
only the
approvers. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. So I would personally, the people submitting the timesheets and your expenses would have access to this form. You could embed it on your Drupal site, or you can share the link, or you can there's a different bunch of different ways that you can actually give them access to the form.
Mhm.
Um, but the actual SharePoint list itself, yeah, I wouldn't. This would only be for people that would um, be approving or rejecting, I think, or
So
keeping
if
track.
someone uploads the wrong document, then there is no way for them to fix it other than emailing me. I realized, or when I'm reviewing, I realized that somebody made mistake. I follow up with them, and they submit another form with the right attachment.
Basically, in this use case, yeah, this case would be if you would either notice it when you're reviewing that they submitted the wrong form, or if the person that submitted it noticed after the fact, then they would tell you kind of, and then you could just like change the status to rejected, and they would submit a new request, basically.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Um,
There's probably a different way that you could customize it. Like maybe I don't know if you didn't want to use a form or something. But in this use case, that would probably be the way I would do it, I think.
okay. So you mentioned that you did show and tells with the
Mhm.
departments that use this the most. I was hoping that we will have the show and tells directly by the departments who do it.
Yeah, I gotta get
So
buy-in
is
from
this okay? So
for them to
is
like
this like
wanna do it. Yeah.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Hopefully that's the goal, that we get like one of them on here to kind of show what they're doing. Some of the ones that they're using for approvals were a little more complicated. I think they were using like tutorials they found online with they had some like code in there, like some JSON code that it was pulling in and HTML and stuff.
mm-hmm,
So I don't know if like a lot of people would do what they were doing. I kind of simplified it a bit. But there's definitely steps that you could add in here or subtract to make it more advanced or simpler
mm-hmm,
even. But
mm-hmm,
yeah, the goal would be to maybe do some more show and tell sessions with some people. But as it's summer, people are away, and like to get them to commit to kind of to show a workshop, maybe in the fall or something, or
mm-hmm.
would probably be a better time, I'd say.
Are you finding that because like I'm just looking at the volume of emails that you received on all the actions that are happening with
Hmm.
this? Are you finding that people who use it really, you know, a lot, that they are having to do a lot of email deletions? It seems like you are working parallel in two different universes, right? Email as a as a way to flag you when an action happened on your
Yeah,
item, and then actual list that is collecting all your data.
totally. Yeah, this is totally optional. Like if you find, like I think Teams is enough for me. Like I getting the notification in Teams. And I think most people as well that are using it are just kind of doing Teams notifications. But I mean, there's different people for different departments. Like some people prefer emails, so it's a very easy step to add and remove the email
Mhm.
part to cut down on a ton of emails and stuff. But if say if you wanted like a emails are better for like I guess looking back and pulling records a little bit maybe because there is like a data retention for Teams, although the approvals doesn't seem to be too bad because mine goes back to 2023. So maybe that's separate from like Teams messages, but like the Teams messages that you get from the Flowbot, for example, they'll I don't know exactly the time, but they do get deleted over a certain amount of time, just to
So that
free
would
up
be the
space.
same retention policy that they are saying from September is going to be only 30 days.
Is it 30 days? Oh, that's very short.
From
Yeah,
September,
I would
coming
have to.
September.
I'd have to check on that, but yeah, I know they were going to implement a new one to shorten it for Teams, just to save space on the server and for privacy policies and stuff. So yeah, so in that case, like if you wanted to use this for like record keeping or something, maybe email would be a better way to go because you could go back and keep this for longer. But to say if you have the record in here for your SharePoint list, which shows everything here, so maybe that's good enough. I guess
Mhm.
it's up to you, I guess. But it's totally customizable. You can add or remove these steps as you go.
Thank you.
No problem. Michelle?
Thank you. That was good, informative.
Awesome.
You said that this is a template.
Yeah,
And where would we find those templates and or what is
yeah,
it called?
sure. This one's just called request approvals, so I can put the link in here. Da, da, da.
Oh, it's on the knowledge. Okay,
Yeah,
I
so
got
we
you.
have an actual Power Automate section on our knowledge base, and we have like a subsection for flow templates. So what I can do is kind of just put a link of the flow template library um, article in here. And this has like
Fantastic.
links in it to go to any of the different flow templates that we have. So we have 6 right now. Um, and there's a ton of templates on Power Automate itself. You see this templates tab.
Hmm.
So we didn't want to like, there's a lot of like the most common actions and stuff you will find in here. All you have to do is search for kind of what you're looking to do. And if it's something that you think sounds like super common, it's probably in here. There's thousands of different templates in here. But what we did was make templates that weren't in here that we think might be valuable to the UTM community because we've had sessions with certain departments to make some of these. Like this one in particular, the SharePoint eSigner is very popular. Um, so that's that's why we only have 6. It's because like most of the other stuff is already covered in the other templates. But if you think of something that is not in either, you can shoot us a message and then we can kind of work to create something and then we'll probably turn it into a template. Like this one that I made for the drone requests, this version of the approvals, we're probably going to turn this into a template. Um,
Oh, that's not a template already?
this version is not the first one that I put in with where you're just uploading it to SharePoint like a file and it creates it
Hmm.
from here. That is the template that we currently have. But like if you want this version, just same thing, just shoot us a ticket and then we can like I already have it created that I can use as a template for you. It's just not officially a
Hmm.
template right now.
Got it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no problem. And I'll just put the link in the chat for you of the and it's also in our Teams group as well. We have like links to all of these knowledge base articles and stuff in the actual Teams channel, Power Automate. It's in users and FAQ. There's like all kinds of knowledge base articles in here. I think one of the first ones is the flow template. Yeah, this one here. as well as some other ones, and we'll keep adding it as we go along.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? I know it's just the two of you, so. All right,
Not from me.
cool. Well, if you're
I'm
interested
good
in
though.
any of these, yeah, just shoot us a ticket. We can schedule a time to. These are already made, so probably you. It sounds like you'd be more interested in this one and maybe kind of customizing it. So once we hand over one of these templates to you, we can just go in and customize it with you as well. Change any of the steps and help you set it up. So yeah, you can just shoot us a standard ticket, just say Power Automate flow template requested or something like that, and then it'll come to our team, the DWS team, and then we'll schedule a session with you to do that.
Can I ask something else too?
Mm-hmm.
Can you set up a form to be open only certain time of period, like certain number of days in a month, and then it locks, and
I
then it
think so, yeah.
reopens?
It's in here somewhere. I think it's in the settings. Like you can have it from a certain date to another date. Yes, so there's a
And
start date and an end date for it,
okay,
and a
but
time
it would need
duration.
to be changed every time, right? It's not something that you can set up um, far in advance. It would be only for the current session, for example. And then when you close it, you go back and you modify the dates.
Yeah, so if you mean if it reaches that date,
Yes,
yes, you would
and it
have to go back
closes.
and go back and change the dates. Yeah,
I understand.
yeah,
Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
no problem. And yeah, I think
Thanks so much, Dennis.
you're
This
welcome.
was great.
Awesome. There's like other ways you can even have like a scan QR code you can send to people to fill out the form as well. All kinds of ways you can do it. Okay, awesome. So I'll be posting this video to our YouTube as well, and then I'll send a link in the Teams channel. So anybody that wanted to attend but didn't make it can view it there as well, and you can review it after as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
No problem. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.